So you and I have known each other for a while now, but for the purposes of the podcast, so for people who haven't met you before, just a little bit of background would be great.
So my name is Allanah, and my husband Neil and I are setting up a new venture which has been in the making for a very, very long time. So we are extremely excited to be telling the world about Flow Yorkshire. So Flow Yorkshire is really, it's a non-profit private members association. It's an initiative that we've set up to help families like ourselves. We've come through to the other side of a long journey with very dysregulated children. And that's 20 plus years ago. And at the time, we had no idea what we were dealing with. And we knew something wasn't quite right. And we knew that there was tremendous disharmony in the family. We knew we weren't terrible parents, so we couldn't figure out quite what was going on. And because the boys are both very high functioning and they're cute and they're good looking and they're kind of cool, they were getting away with a lot of stuff. And they were masking quite well, but there were cracks showing, and particularly in the home when they were offloading. So it took about 14 years to get a clear understanding of what was going on. And so when Finn, our youngest, got diagnosed with ADHD and autism, we got some clarity. But we didn't understand what it was, where it had come from, why it had happened. There was no forthcoming explanation about that. So we just took the diagnosis and then asked what next. And of course, the only option to us then was some medication to bring some reprieve for Finn and teachers and us, if I'm honest, because we were all kind of exhausted. But I think the really heartbreaking moment came when, in that consultation, I said to Finn, they're saying you've got high functioning autism, darling. And I wasn't sure how he'd respond to that. I thought he would be, unhappy about it, feel awkward about it. But actually, it was a look of relief on his face. And when he said to me, so I'm not just a dickhead then. So that really broke my heart. That really broke my heart. That's the moment that pierced my heart. And I realized then that it had been too long getting to this point of an understanding, and his self-esteem was on the floor.
Right. Would you mind sort of giving a bit of an explanation of what kind of dysregulation?
Yeah. So he was obviously, what we know now, all this terminology we have now, which we didn't have then, he was obviously hypersensory, but we didn't know it. So he wasn't the sort of child that wouldn't wear particular clothes or wouldn't eat particular foods. He was just very, very excitable in particular situations, and to the point of slightly out of control. And in a school situation, he would be wanting to control everybody in the class and certainly wouldn't want to be sitting still. And in a team sports situation, he's a good sportsman. He would want to be the coach, and he would want to control everybody. And I realized over time that he was feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
And he just was trying to control. And because I didn't understand what was going on, I didn't realize that I needed to regulate myself in order for him to regulate from me. And so everybody was hysterical.
Yeah, I've been there.
And what else was going on? So he was learning, and he was eating, and therefore he was physically thriving, and academically he was doing okay. But socially, it was a mess. He was really struggling in the social arena. And for a parent to witness that, and I know a lot of parents do, it's absolutely heartbreaking. So anyway, we went down the medication route for a bit. And very quickly, he was losing weight because it robbed his appetite. And he was getting depressed. And so the side effects were completely unacceptable. And I reached a point of breakdown when one day I just took a look at him and thought, Jesus, this is not good. He's really, really low. And he just said, I just want to be happy. So I broke down, and actually it was that moment of vulnerability that brought the shift that we needed. When I finally let go of trying to fix and firefight and just surrendered to, to all those who are listening will have different views and different beliefs, but I do have quite a strong faith, and I believe in a higher power. And when I let go that day, I really felt like I'd absolutely let go. And it almost felt like a liberation. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I've tried now for 14 years. And the moment I let go, what then happened was I was having all these sort of synchronicities of chance encounters and spontaneous conversations with people that literally changed the course of Finn's life from that day. And I will always tribute my older sister, Monique, who works in holistic health and always has done. And she's always had a really keen interest in all of these things. And she had tried to stop me going down the medication route, but I wasn't listening because I was desperate. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we spoke, and she said, look, you need to start working on his gut, and you need to start working on his nervous system. And so then the educational process started. And so that's what we did. And she guided us down that route. So through neurofeedback and medicinal herbs and gut nutrition, the sea of calm just started to arrive. Yeah.
Were you offered anything else from the NHS, or was it literally just the medication?
No, just medication. And no real understanding of, there's so much science. I mean, it's not just woo. There is science about the neurochemicals and the gut-brain axis and, the nervous system. It's all there. But the medical system is not looking at that. The medical system is looking at what's the pill that's going to calm the symptoms, not how is this child going to optimize and thrive. And so our journey then, thanks to my sister and my very courageous warrior child, Finn, who's really been a guinea pig on our learning journey, and much to his benefit. So we learned that the nervous system is absolutely vital, and that if the nervous system is in fight, flight, and high alert, which for most children living with dysregulation, their nervous system is on all the time. And if a child is in a state of arousal and dysregulation, their nervous system is in high alert, and they cannot respond to reason. And so we learned that calming the nervous system was important. We also learned that inflammation, because of the stress they live in all the time, and the very toxic modern world we live in, is also another issue. So rolling forward the years, here we are now, Finn is 22, and we would like to share the knowledge that we've learned with other families, because on that journey, when I would meet other families with children struggling similarly to Finn, and I would say about medicinal herbs and craniosacral therapy and, nutrition and the myriad of things we were doing for Finn, there was always this look of hope and optimism and just maybe there's something we can do here. But then, of course, the very next question was, is it expensive? Or can you get it through the NHS? And obviously the answer is it's all private. It is expensive. And no, you can't get it through the NHS. So then you have families looking completely crestfallen. So we believe we've found a way of making all of this knowledge and science available to families and individuals, because it's not just children, it's adults too, by establishing a private members association, which enables us to take donations and to fundraise without being a charity. And there are various reasons why we didn't want to be a charity, which are too long to list now, but we are nonetheless a private members association. Anybody who decides to try what we have to offer will become automatic members once they start using the therapies that we offer. And there'll be a variable range of donations per therapy. And if a family really cannot afford the recommended range, they can donate what they can.
Right, okay.
And so that's why we've set ourselves up like that.
Okay, oh, fabulous. And I think the thing, I'd never thought about it really, but I know when you look at treatments for your own child, having gone through a similar thing myself with my elder daughter, you're offered treatments for the child. And it was mind-blowing to me talking to you that actually you're dealing with the whole family. Would you be able to explain a bit why actually not just treating the child who's dysregulated, but actually treating the whole family?
Yeah, well, I don't think I had realised really until probably, honestly, more recent years, just how much it had taken its toll on me. But not just me, the whole family. So Finn's older brother, Luke, who was latterly actually diagnosed with ADHD. But I think ADHD, perhaps unlike autism, well, it's very layered. What influences these things and what triggers these things is varied. But a late diagnosis of ADHD can often be a trauma-related behavioral pattern. So I don't know whether Luke's ADHD diagnosis came from a predisposition genetically or whether actually living with a very dysregulated situation in the house. Luke is also highly sensitive, and I really saw it take its toll on him because he felt this overwhelming sense of responsibility for Finn. He saw the struggles that Finn was having deeply upset him. He couldn't do anything to help. And then eventually he sort of pulled away and became an unhelpful brother. And all the while, I could just see my whole family falling apart. And so I then started to it was an educational process for me. I realized I had a load of baggage from my childhood that I hadn't addressed. That was already a big old weight to carry. And now I'm being handed this. But, our children are our greatest teachers. And this challenge was the undoing of me so that I could do my growing and learn through Finn. But at Flow, just to really answer your question, at Flow Yorkshire, we will be embracing the entire family, acknowledging that everybody is affected by this. And it's okay to say, this is affecting me.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. Parents want it to be okay for the child who's suffering, and there's no shame or blame, but people are really struggling.
Yeah.
And, most conscious, awake and well-informed consultants in this field of work will always say, regulation first. You've got to regulate your nervous system before they can regulate. No amount of reasoning or rationale will calm a child who's, highly dysregulated and in that red zone. But how do you regulate yourself? I mean, how do you do that when your child has pushed all your buttons and you're feeling really frazzled and right on the edge? And then you have to remember, I need to regulate.
Yeah. It's far easier said than done.
But it is easier, actually, than you think. So, the other things that we'll be doing through Flow are just teaching people all these tips and tools. So we will have modalities, which we'll talk about later, within the Wellbeing Centre, which will very quickly calm nervous systems and reduce inflammation and strengthen neural pathways and all of that kind of thing, all that good stuff. But in between the sessions, as everybody's responding favorably, there will be still moments. And in those moments, simple things like, deep abdomen breathing, actually. So when you can see your child is becoming dysregulated and it's about to kick off, the most important thing that you can do is not try and rescue the situation or apprehend it or stop it. Just know it's happening and step away and just take some deep abdominal breaths. So something I quite like to do is a long, deep abdominal breath and then a hold, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and then a longer exhale. And that immediately calms the nervous system. Or I might actually just go and run my hands under some cold water. Might even splash my face. Or I might go out and stand on the ground on my bare feet. But I also do emotional freedom technique tapping as a therapist. I do that anyway, so I might do that. But there are a million things you can do. But also just remembering my job is not to stop this happening. My job is just to regulate. Mm. And if I can regulate, they can regulate.
Yeah. Mm. So in terms of if somebody wants to come to Flow, and what's that initial consultation, what's involved in the initial consultation? Okay, so the process would be that somebody would maybe sign up for our newsletter or inquire, and then we would respond and with a questionnaire. Because I hope we'll be a fit for most people, but we won't be for everybody. So we have a questionnaire asking some really key questions, and then we would invite them in for a free taster session and a further chat. It's not a big place. We've got 3 therapy rooms and a nice reception space. It's our phase 1 premises. We've got planning permission going on for phase 2.
But we're in a beautiful rural environment, so there's space for the families to enjoy the countryside before and after the session, and then come in and just try all the stuff that we have to offer. So that first session is complimentary, where they come to get, feel for it. And depending on the extremities of the dysregulation that they're dealing with, they need to know, will I tolerate this?
Yeah.
Will I be comfortable doing this? Does it suit me? And a lot, it's all non-invasive. It's just, do you think your child will be comfortable sitting there for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or even an hour?
Yeah.
And we have various therapies that will build up to the ultimate neuromodulation, which is what we really want to get people into. But there are nice, soft, gentle ways of doing it. And the premises is also very, very child and adult friendly. So although it's sophisticated in its look, there's lots of lovely textural, deep sheepskins and beanbags, and we've got big egg chairs and things. So it's really family friendly.
Oh, fabulous. We'll go into the modalities in a little bit more detail later on, but just to run through what some of the options will be, just so.
Yeah. So the primary options within the centre will be, as well as coaching and counselling, which is a key part of it. So there's a therapeutic side of it, the talking and the counselling and the emotional freedom technique, etc. I will be working with the adults, and I've got another therapist who does children, who works with children. So there'll be that, but there will be the various modalities that will calm the nervous system and reduce inflammation include PEMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, which is essentially grounding times 100. And the reason that's really important is that as human beings, we have an intrinsic relationship with Mother Earth. The Earth's magnetic field is very important for our health and well-being. And because we now live in a sort of electronic soup within our atmosphere, and because we're all walking around with rubber-soled shoes on, we're not earthing and grounding anymore unless we are actively, consciously making an effort to do that, like taking your shoes off and standing on the ground, or holding a tree, or being out in nature a lot. We are really like walking antennae. So our PEMF mats we will be having seat mats under the children's chair cushions, so that they're grounding without even realizing it's happening. For the adults, there are full body mats they can lie on. And the PEMF it'll do the grounding, and within that, it's reducing inflammation, increasing circulation, and releasing energy from the center of the cells. And it is also resetting the nervous system. So in doing all of that, it's a sort of one-stop shop for the key offending issues of the immune system and the nervous system. We also have red light therapy, which is all the positive rays of the sunshine, which is really important for our cells to thrive and for us to be well. So by lying under a full body red light panel, you'll be achieving similar things without the grounding to the PEMF in terms of circulation and reducing inflammation, etc. So those two things are really about reducing inflammation and helping the cells to be more active. And it's supporting the communication system of the body so that the immune system can do what it's designed to do, which is to heal us and keep us well. But if you're in a constant state of high alert, the immune system is just trying to keep you alive. Then we'll be looking at regulating the nervous system in a more focused manner. And we use two modalities for that. One is called neurosonic, which is literally just a bed. And by lying on this bed, there are low-tone vibrational sound frequencies passing through the bed. And you've also got headphones on so you can hear that music. And the music, the sound and the bed vibration are all synchronizing so that it's literally your nervous system starts to regulate through just sound and vibration, because we are all frequency. And so it responds really well to that. And then another modality is neuromodulation, which is electrodes through little gloves on the hands and the feet, which are just little microcurrents that go through the body to support the autonomic and the central nervous system and bring everything back into balance. And the neuromodulation is really the optimal thing that we'll be working up to. But for children, we've also got something called David's Delight, which I was very excited to find. It sounds like an ice cream, but actually it's very profound science. And so that is, it's headphones and goggles. And so when the children, and it's for children and adults, but we thought it'd be quite fun for the children. So it's sound and light frequency, which again calms the nervous system, stimulates the neural pathways to produce dopamine. Because one of the issues with ADHD is that the brain is always looking for the dopamine and it's lacking with an ADHD. So this stimulates the dopamine, which brings calm. So what you would experience with these goggles and the headphones, again, is some very calming sounds and some colors of light, not flashing, just passing by through the goggles. And the combination of both of those is very impactful. So we anticipate that the children might start with that sort of thing, and then build up to the neuromodulation, and the children, when they're doing the neuromodulation, will be on a great big beanbag with a footstool, and they'll have these little gloves and booties on. And they could be maybe watching a movie or playing a game with their parents or chatting. But very quickly what happens with all of these therapies is you start to fall asleep, actually, because the nervous system is relaxing. And it's by far the best thing to fall asleep so that the mind gets out of the way.
Yeah.
And the body can do what it needs to do.
So would you combine that with talking therapies? Would you have
Definitely.
that? Right, okay.
Definitely, yeah. Because we want the children to understand that all emotion is healthy emotion. It's just about regulation and balance. So if a child is feeling a lot of one particular emotion, we want them to just understand it, become friends with it, and help them to learn coping mechanisms to move through it. So I do counseling and emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping, which is acupressure, which is really when you're tapping as you're talking, you are telling the subconscious that it's safe. Because most of our operating, most of the ways that we operate and our coping mechanisms and our behavioral patterns, most of the time are coming from old programs, usually bits of trauma or limiting beliefs or major traumas and limiting beliefs. And it's the subconscious that's in the driving seat 95% of the time. So when you tap, so myself with the adults, I'll be doing that. And my colleague with the children, she does speed tapping. So it's not so boring. It's more fun. And she's not going into traumas and endless conversations, which I might be with the adults. She's just talking about the emotion. I feel this emotion. It's safe to feel this emotion. And as you tap, saying that kind of thing and tapping at various parts of the body, it passes really quickly. And the children feel like they've got the superpower. Oh, I can do this. And so they don't get stuck in the emotion.
And that's really helpful that they can take it away with them. It's not something that they're going to leave at the treatment centre.
Useful tools.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we will also be advising about lifestyle. So, why are we looking at this escalating crisis of dysregulation in our world now? Is a massive question. And what even is it? And where is it coming from? And honestly, the science is out. People can research it. I've spent decades researching it now and understanding it. But it's basically an evolutionary issue.
Right, okay.
So it's the environment that we live in this modern age, which is assaulting our nervous systems. And it's not about being fearful about it and being angry about it and fighting the systems that we live in. It's about finding solutions and moving through it. So newborns, for example, they have very fragile cells and nervous systems. They've already brought in imprints from inherited stuff, genetically and emotionally. We bring in imprints from our ancestors and from our mothers and our mothers' mothers, et cetera, et cetera. So babies are already coming in with some stuff. But as their physical bodies are growing, there's an assault within our environment from all the microwaves, the radio waves, the all of the Wi-Fi's, et cetera, which we can't see, and therefore we don't really give a lot of thought to. But of course, what is Wi-Fi? It's energy that's moving around the house without you seeing it. It doesn't require a wire, and it's there. Okay, it's like a radio wave. They're everywhere. And we are all frequency, we are all energy, we're electronic beings, and we are entirely affected by that. So you and I as adults are less affected than the babies and the children. And so their little nervous systems are literally being cooked by this all the time. And so I don't say that to terrify families. I say it just to make people consciously aware. So we will be educating families about, well, what can we do about that? Okay, well, what you can do is you can think about turning off your Wi-Fi at night. Because if you minimize the impact within your home environment, the cells can regenerate. We're very clever, our bodies, we were made divinely incredible. We can regenerate, but not if we never get a break. One of the reasons why you have children on the spectrum, as we say, or highly sensitive children appearing to be literally allergic to school, it's not just because their friends are being mean or they don't like the teachers or they don't like the system. Schools are very difficult places for sensitive nervous systems to be in because they're full of strip lighting and loads of electronics. And it's just not an easy environment to be in. It's why you'll see a sensitive child having a meltdown in the supermarket. It's the same sort of environment. It always happens in these places because it's very, very difficult for the children. So once you know how to regulate your nervous system and you can therefore become regulated and just sit with your child while they have a meltdown, they will become regulated by you. You can turn off your Wi-Fi, you can come and see us, and you can use these PEMF mats. You can also look at the diet. So it's very layered because of the modern world we live in. It's agrochemicals. So a lot of toxicity build-up in the system, particularly in the brain, a lot of heavy metals in the brain. And a lot of that comes from agrochemicals like glyphosate. And, I'm not saying anything. I am saying something quite controversial. It's a sensitive subject. But there is scientific proof now.
Yes.
We know this as a fact. Chemically produced food is making us sick. So if you don't have a budget as a family to buy all organic, well, then don't worry about that. Just do what you can. So maybe prioritize root vegetables because they're the ones that are most affected by the chemicals. And maybe think about growing some at home, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming, but just make some conscious decisions. The other thing that really makes a difference is our water. Our water is very, very full of chemicals because the water companies are trying to give us clean water to drink, but in cleaning out the bacteria and all the stuff they think is bad for us, they're putting a load of chemicals that are also very bad for us. So whole house water filter systems and things are a good idea. And again, if you can't afford that, a filter jug. Reducing plastics, thinking about the cosmetics that you're putting on your skin, the shampoos, the soaps. I make my own cosmetics and it's not difficult. I don't need a whole chemistry or laboratory to do that. It's literally shea butter, some essential oils and bits and bobs. Maybe I don't look great, but it's fine. So you also need to be very conscious about the products that are telling you that they're simple and clean because they're not always. But now there are apps. I can't remember, there's a name of an app that you can zap the products in the shops.
Yes.
And it'll tell you whether it's red, green or yellow,
Yes.
sort of thing. So it'll tell you how many chemicals are in it, how bad they are.
You're offering nutritional testing, aren't you?
Yeah. So if people would like, when they first come in, they'll be offered full health screening. They'll also be offered DNA testing. We're working with affiliate practitioners, not within the centre, but very local to us and extremely experienced. Nutritional advice. Now, my wonderful nutritionist is happy to see people on a one-to-one consultancy basis. But actually, we were discussing this the other day and she said, what would actually probably be better for your clientele is for us to just run frequent talks or lots of series of podcasts or courses where you can get lots of families together because everybody's affected by the same thing.
Yeah.
But of course, if you really want to drill down into your particular child or your own particular situation, then one-to-one consulting is available.
I think it's tricky, isn't it? Sometimes you end up taking a large number of supplements. You don't really know why. Or so-and-so said to take this, and it's a bit of guesswork. So I guess if you streamline it and you know why you're taking it, it's going to be much more effective.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because one of the other issues about people living with dysregulation and heightened nervous systems is most of the time they're not actually methylating, which means converting food into the nutrients that we need, and our cells can't actually absorb that. So you could be throwing a truckload of supplements into somebody thinking that's going to help because I read about that and somebody said that, and as we all do.
Yes.
And I'm still a bit of a sucker for it, I will be honest.
so am I.
But we were giving Finn so many supplements, and what can happen is if the body's not actually using them, all you're really doing is you're overloading the liver with more work to do. And the liver is our emotional organ. It filters all the toxicity, and it's often where we store our anger. And, Finn's default as the little boy often was anger. And I remember him once saying to me, "These supplements are making me angry." I thought, well, that's not the case because you're always angry. But he was old enough to start making his decisions. And so I said to him, "Right, well, would you like to stop taking them?" And he said, "I bloody well would, yeah, let's stop taking them." So we did. And honestly, he calmed down.
Right.
But now we know that Finn doesn't methylate his nutrients. Yeah. So, and there are ways now of helping the body to methylate.
Okay.
So when you know that, and the only way to really know that is through DNA testing, are symptomatic, demonstrations. So, for example, often children who are dysregulated are dealing with some neurodiversity. They can often have black rings under their eyes. They might be very thin. They might get ill a lot. These are all signs that they're nutritionally deficient.
I can picture exactly where your treatment centre is because it's absolutely heavenly, but it's be quite good to explain just actually how that rural setting can help in terms of actually coming to the centre. It's not just about the treatment rooms themselves, it's the whole environment that you're in.
Yeah, well, our environment has a massive impact on our psychology, without a doubt. And so when Neil and I were looking at premises for this, we had identified a premises, but it's a Grade 2 listed building and needs planning permission, and it was going to be a long road. So we thought, well, we'll just take this facility to the local town, and then it'll have access to more people, and then more people will be able to access it, and that's better for everybody, for the community. But every premises we looked at was just concrete with no nature, and it was just not vibing with us at all. So in the end, we've just converted a little holiday let apartment on our grounds in the countryside into this little premises. But in this phase 1 stage, what people will experience when they come there is what was essentially a little apartment with 3 therapy rooms and a nice big reception space. But it's in the most pretty setting by a river with lots of lovely grounds and woods, and within the village there's a playground and beautiful walks. We've got Thornborough henges, which are ancient, historic, really beautiful henges very close by. So the energy in that area is already very grounding and soothing. And within this phase 1, eventually, it's unfortunately the wrong time of the year now, we'll be developing the paddock that we have that people drive through, with little animals and just fun things for the kids to do out there, so that they can enjoy coming. They can have a run around, a play before and after whatever therapy they have. But it feels like a nice, fun place to come to rather than a treatment per se. But in terms of nurturing the nervous system, our environment really makes a difference. So if it feels like a nice, soothing environment to be in, then your nervous system will be responding. But also, nature really is medicine for us. So the more we can be in nature and see nature and connect with nature, the more we're healing.
When people are coming to you for sessions, I know you talked to me about the how many you need and the duration. Could you just give me a little bit of detail about what would be the optimal?
That's a really good question. Really good question. Yeah. So there would be no point. Well, it would be helpful, but there would be no sustainable benefit in coming for 1 or 2 sessions. Okay, so this is going to be an investment of time and money, and we are doing our very best to remove financial barriers for everybody. So hopefully we'll come up with a payment scheme that suits everybody and enables our business to be sustainable. But we know that we will need to front load the sessions to start with. So probably the optimal number of sessions would be about 10. So we would suggest that perhaps in the first week, and they want to be, when they get started, we want to keep going. So I would say 3 a week for the first 3 weeks. And then we might do 1 for the following week. And then we might just do 1 every 2 weeks and stretch it out, depending on how they're responding in the interim and what finances they have available, finances and time. I remember doing all of this with Finn when we did neurofeedback with him, and it was an entire month of August. But it worked, and so it was worth doing. But it's a commitment.
Yeah. Well, that's how you and I met originally, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To neurofeedback in Esme, we drove from Newcastle to Glasgow once a week for 20 weeks.
Gosh, did you?
To enable her to have that treatment.
Yeah.
And it is, but yeah, I guess
it's
that hope that it gives you. And actually, when you see the treatment working, then it
it's not just hope; it actually does work.
Well, yes,
it works. And also, it's an investment in your future and your child's future or your husband's future, whoever it is who's having the treatment. Yeah. It's an investment in their future. But it's not just come in and be fixed. So, we want people to come in and come on this journey with us. We want them to learn as much as they would like to learn. Between myself and my husband and this team we have around us, there's just a wealth of information that will strengthen the family unit and the individuals. So they won't just be coming and having a treatment. We will be asking them to really commit to this in terms of, not just coming for the treatment, but looking at the lifestyle, having a look through that larder cupboard, perhaps getting rid of the stuff that's not serving them very well, thinking about what shampoos and toothpastes and things they're using, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's phase 1. What have you got planned for phase 2? I know it's going to be a few years in the future, but what's the big dream for phase 2?
Life is continually surprising me at the moment. So everything seems to be flowing in a really beautiful way, and lots of nice ideas and things coming up. And so, but at the moment, the plan for phase 2 is there's an old sort of coach house, stable block building in the village, which is a lovely old stone building, with a little landlocked field next to it, which is essentially agricultural field, but can't be used agriculturally. So we're in pre-app at the moment to apply to convert that old stone building into a wellbeing cafe on the ground floor and 6 treatment rooms upstairs, and landscape the field so that we can have a natural pool and perhaps a sauna and a multi-purpose sort of yoga shala. So within the yoga space, we'll do things like breath work and yoga and sand baths, and also fun stuff for the kids, things that help them to be happy children. And there's also a school in the village. We really want to connect with the local schools and various other communities, community groups, working with children, because homeschooling is becoming an increasingly popular thing. And it doesn't mean that you have to teach your child. I would call them community schooling, really. So we'd like to be able to access as many community schooling groups as possible and give them access to these grounds. So there'll be an area that the children can enjoy, like a forest school, for example. And maybe have some animals and grow some vegetables. That's the big dream, really.
Yeah. I know, because when we were talking about, it's like science meets ancient wisdom. And I think that it's lovely to live in a time period where people are actually beginning to come back to that and sort of acknowledge how important that ancient wisdom is.
Yeah, there's so much ancient wisdom coming back now. And I think, the pandemic was a real pivot point, actually, where people... It was layered, wasn't it? Because people had the opportunity to pause, think, reflect, and observe their families and their own lives, and maybe make some changes. And notice just how fast we move all the time. Everybody is living in a state of stress. Everyone. So actually, in a way, it's quite helpful having a dysregulated child, because if you've got to become regulated to help them, then you're also doing it.
Yes.
But everybody's just been very busy, living in a heightened state of stress, because the program in this modern world is the faster you move, the more you get done, the more money you make, the more successful you'll be. But actually, you're just burning out. You're really just burning out. And so what we want to do is help people to see there's another way. So when you go to your doctor and say, my child's self-harming, or they've got OCD, or, whatever's going on, they're facing a waiting list in CAMHS of, over a year sometimes. And it's a sort of then what? So people are increasingly learning that actually the NHS is overwhelmed. It's doing more than it was ever intended to do. But it's the what next option. And rather than feeling completely hopeless, we want to be one of those places where we go, well, try this next. But within this, we want to start opening people's eyes to, another way of being. And that's bringing in the ancient wisdom. We both have a very strong spiritual kind of core. We certainly won't be thrusting spirituality down people's throats, but with that comes core values. And those core values are quite ancient, and they come a long way back from the ancestors. And it's all just simple stuff like connecting with nature, growing your own food, pausing, being mindful, doing a puzzle instead of going on your phone. Yeah, all of that.
So if you were going to give one bit of advice to parents if sort of feeling overwhelmed and unsure where to start, what would that advice be?
Never lose hope. Never lose hope. Yeah. Makes me feel a little bit emotional saying that, because you feel absolutely hopeless when you're lost in that field of, it's a minefield of conflicting advice, and we're in an age of information where there's an overwhelm of information. So, but I would say never lose hope, because the one thing that we have certainly learned in this journey as parents is that even in our darkest hours, where you feel like you're walking through that valley of darkness and there's no way out, there's always a chink of light. And Finn and Luke have turned into the most remarkable young men, and I'm immensely proud of them. And I do often wonder, would that have happened anyway? I don't know. Would it just happened anyway?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, honestly, because it was messy at times and they did need some help. But they change.
Mm-hmm.
They change. And the other thing I would say is that adversity is always an opportunity for growth, without a doubt. So don't shy away from the tough stuff in life. Lean into it. Get curious about it, because it's always an opportunity for growth. And if you take that approach rather than resist, deny and fight it, you'll move through it much more smoothly, and then the opportunities will be presented to you. I would also say that science is moving on all the time, and everything that we are working with is, as you so beautifully said, a combination of modern science and ancient wisdom. And everything we're working with is validated science, and there's a greater awareness now and so much more information available to us that families today are in a much better position than we were. And it's going to be okay, but it's going to be down to people like us to make conscious effort to turn things around. And I really believe that this Flow initiative is a very important seed sowing step to a much brighter future. And we're only one little hub. There are thousands all over the world doing this kind of work now. And I would love to see Flow Yorkshire become a little hub that opens up in various different places. Because unlike the counselling work that I do at the moment using EFT, etc., which I can do on Zoom, I can see people all over the world, all over the country. These modalities that we're using, that we've been talking about, are very much in situ. So what we will probably do also is hire out some equipment to people they can use in their homes and stuff. So we will try and make it a bit easier for people. But I think probably we could roll out some hubs all over the place.
Yeah.
Be great. The other thing I'd really love to do is maybe do some outreach into schools. The schools are so much red tape, we'd have to navigate our way through that. But it would be nice to take some of these healing modalities into schools, and then at break times, the kids can just lie on that for 20 minutes or stick those on for 20 minutes and just go back to class feeling a lot more regulated.
Yeah. I remember looking at, this is years ago, a school in Singapore, and they had an hour and a half lunchtime, and they would play sport, then they'd have the lunch, and then they would all do meditation together. But actually, it's such a simple thing, just having a longer time period rather than race, because everything's so rushed. Yeah. There's no wonder we then feel stressed, because it's
and movement. Movement's so important. If I've had a heavy session with a client and they've offloaded a lot of stuff and they're feeling lighter or they're feeling clearer, but it's been quite draining, I will get them up and get them moving. We'll often put some music on, we'll have a silly old dance and really just move, because, somatically, it's very important to get it out of the system. And the more we move, we're a very sedentary society these days because of the computers. But the more we move, the more you move it through your body.
Because you and I had both said, hadn't we, because our children have gone through things as teenagers, and I think what you're saying about in terms of like hope, there's always something. And actually, both of our children who've gone through those big traumas as teenagers, they've had their sort of breakdown that the rest of us have waited till 40s and 50s. And actually, they're much more self-aware and that they're able to then navigate the rest of their lives. So having had that input as a child, and they're going into adulthood far more grounded in themselves with their own coping mechanisms that will then have that intergenerational, pass that on to their...
Absolutely. And this is where it goes back to adversity is the opportunity for growth. As long as you're well supported through the adversity.
Yes.
There's not entirely sure I was throughout my life, but everybody was doing their best, but there was a lot of sort of lost in the darkness. But you see, again, I truly believe that your journey through life informs your purpose. I really do believe that. So, for example, I'm a therapist. I like to think I'm a good therapist, but I'm a therapist because I had to figure out what it means to be human and why is it so hard?
Yeah.
And why is everybody mean to each other? And why are people so dysfunctional? And I had all these questions when I was young. And that just set me off on a path of learning and discovery. And I learned so much, and it took me down the road of spirituality, which offered, answers to questions that I thought were completely unanswerable. Again, ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
This is all Eastern culture stuff that we're just not taught here. So and Finn, he found joy in music. Not that he is a trained classical musician by any stretch. We tried the drums and it was disastrous. But he's a DJ and he's a very good DJ and music, and he's a very good dancer. He's got great rhythm. So movement has always been his joy. Music has always been his joy. And now he's pursuing a career in that. So he's running events and, he's DJing, and he's found his tribe there.
Fabulous.
And it was a thing that really made him happy. And whether that's the thing he does long term or not, I don't know, but it certainly brought him some joy. And I would say to people, just continue to observe, be conscious observers and witness. We don't need to rescue or save. We just need to observe and be witness to, and then have conversations with people who, like us, do have an idea what's going on, and go, okay, this is what's presenting. And we will never be treating any two clients or any two families the same. So what's going on with you? What's come up?
Yeah.
Where do you think this has come from? We want to learn and treat everybody uniquely. But we do all have a nervous system. We are all living with inflammation. So those two things.
Yeah, exactly. So before we wrap up, it would be great just to let people know about timeframes. So when are you planning to open? What can people do to find out and so that they're you're ready to go?
Yeah. Well, so the premises is almost finished. The phase 1 premises is almost finished, which is really exciting. And so we are anticipating having everything in situ early into January. And then we just need to do some final training with staff throughout January. And I anticipate probably opening our doors in the middle of February. And so with your help, doing all our social media and helping us with a really robust marketing strategy so that we can reach as many people as possible. And this is genuinely what it's about. Of course, we all need to make money, but we really need people to learn on this journey. So we'll be doing some very robust marketing and people will become aware. So we have at the moment a landing page website called flowyorkshire.com. And people can go to that website and just register their interest by signing up for the newsletter. And then we will continue to keep in touch with those people via newsletter and perhaps some emails occasionally just to let them know what's happening. And so the sort of early adopters of our therapies will get some founder member benefits, etc. And we'll be rolling all of that out throughout the course of January and February. So the process is they would make an inquiry, we would send out a questionnaire. I think I've mentioned all of this, and then we'll have a consultation with them, etc.
Fabulous. So they can find out information on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And yes, it's getting signed up for the mailing list, really, isn't it?
The mailing list, yeah. So just if anybody's interested, sign up for the newsletter, and we will keep in touch with them. Yeah,
fabulous.
Yeah. The other thing is that, if people are listening to this that are not within our local area, so we are very close to Ripon in North Yorkshire. We're about 10 minutes from Ripon. So if anybody's not local but wants to avail of the services, We are really lucky in the village. We've got some lovely accommodation within the village. So, and we're working out discounted rates
brilliant.
with the accommodation. Right. So it would be great if families decided, actually, do you know what, we're going to do 10 days of this and we're just going to nail it.
Yeah.
We can organise accommodation for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your amazing questions. And I look forward to the next steps.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Helen.